Okay, so I'm going to talk about this troll movie trailer, which I believe is just another sign of bold phobia. Okay, because when people are talking about featureism, texturism, colorism, fat phobia, even a lot of times racism, we're actually just talking about bold phobia. Okay, um, our society is very bold phobic. If you have sort of a bold nature, bold physique, a bold appearance, you're going to be discriminated against on some level. Okay. Part of that is like there's people with like this primal fear of bold features, right? When you walk into a room, people treat you as if you're like a wolf, a tiger, or a lion or something. It's just that sort of instinctual fear of bold features. Okay. But then there's also this thing where it's just, these people with more fine builds and features sort of discriminating against people who are different from them. Okay. And you can see in this troll movie that this troll, so called troll, has bold features. And that's when people are saying troll, that's who they're usually conjuring up in mind. People with bold features. In the same sense, like in a lot of these fantasy films and movies, like say Lord of the Rings, like these people with these fine types are, the humans and they're the elves, right? And that type of thing, and the dwarves. While the trolls and the goblins and the orcs, that's based on like black coated, bold, well, black coated. Bold phobia is can be black coded sometimes, but it's not just based on black identified people. It's based on everyone with bold features. Okay, that's supposed to be us, and that's what this troll movie is doing. Of course, he has these bold features, bold physique, because it's just bold phobia. Okay, why are people with bold features the trolls organ, basically subhuman, non-human? That's because that's how these people actually see us. It's like a slight exaggeration of how they actually perceive and see us, right? If one of these fine types are very fine types are looking at this video, they see me in a distorted way where me just going like this is seen as aggressive, or they see my nose as like 2 3 times bigger than it actually is. And then there's actually people with features that are a lot bigger than mine. Like there's people with bigger lips than mine, bigger nose than mine, bolder physiques, and that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's just, but it's relative. I used to live in a place where there was, by fine types, very fine types. Okay, so they saw myself as bold. When you move, but when you move by people who with more bold or very bold features, I know that they don't perceive my features as that bold. Okay, but still, like when you're talking about texturism, featureism, um, we're always just talking about bold features. Like the more curlier your hair is, the more it will grow outwards and upwards. It becomes bold. You walk into a room and it's like boom, right? Bold. Okay. The finer your hair is, it just sort of, goes down, right? This more graceful vibe. It's like more subtle, fine. Okay. And then you see how there's like this sort of hierarchy where fine is placed at the top and bold is placed at the bottom, right? It even goes down to voices. If you have like a fine, light voice, they call that angelic, right? Um, and that type of thing. And that's like angelic hair. They're talking about like blonde, um, fine hair. Why isn't all hair types angelic? Okay, and even colorism. Brown is a bold color. It's all just bold phobia. Okay. Um, Fat phobia is just bold phobia. People are can be intimidated by boldness, right? So they try to uh, squeeze women into this skinny thin mold because it makes them less intimidating. You know what I'm saying? B- right? Um, it's just bold phobia, right? Not just in the sense that it's that over analytical. We don't need 10,000 terms for things. We don't have to say texturism, colorism, featureism. It's always going to be light and fine features over here and dark and bold features over here. Okay, that's what all these hierarchies are built on. Even like white, white coded is just actually just fine coded. Like whiteness is fine coded and black is dark bold coded. Like my nose, there's other populations, genetic facets with this nose. Pretty much the same shape and size. But when it's on them, it's just a nose, or it's just a bigger nose, a bolder nose. But when it comes on my face, just because it's in a combination with these other features, these black coded features, it becomes a black nose. This is not a black nose, it's just a nose. And there's even times where people will assume if someone has bolder features that are admixed with a black identified person or someone genetically violet, when it's just that bold features can be found in all populations even if they're not admixed. Okay, it was just that black identified people do happen to have a higher concentration of bold and very bold features, so that has kind of been that's another reason why there's this sort of bold phobia. Okay, but it was mostly because it was these people, like when the industrial kidnapping complex and this sort of appearance-based caste system was put in place, it just happened that those people had finer features, right? Yes, there's a concentration of um, finer features in white identified people, but not all of them do. Even to the point where there's like where I call people say that there's like white black women, because there's a significant amount of white identified women who look more like Jenny McCarthy, or like that woman who went viral for rapping that Missy Elliott song. Yeah, that's like their one sort of representative. Like why? Yeah, when you look at black identified women, they have a bigger range of representation than some white identified people, right? There are a lot of fat, bolder, black identified women in the media, okay? But how many white identified women can you name? There's like one or two, okay? And then on like mainstream movies, it's like one, pretty much Melissa McCarthy, okay? When there's a significant amount of white identified men who look like Melissa McCarthy, it's almost like I don't know, like white people, identified people are almost ashamed of them or something. Okay, white black women, but not really. But bold, bold white identified women are have some of the least discrimination, representation than all these other sort of demographics and caste. Okay, um, it's bold phobia. Okay, the thing is like um right, that's how the hierarchy happened to go, and that's shifting and changing. But a part of this is like a lot of these fine types and very fine types, they perceive themselves as like these rabbits, rabbits, right? I use this rabbit symbology metaphor type of thing. They believe they are like these poor innocent little rabbits that have to deal with us, right? That's why you see that reflected in these like Lord of the Rings, World of Warcraft movies, right? Where they're the innocent heroes and we're like the evil villainous hoarders and orcs and that type of things. That's how they really perceive it in real life, right? They perceive themselves as like these pure innocent little rabbits, right? You kind of see this in other ways, like how they were like so antagonistic about that WAP music video or the twerking, the city girls twerk video. They're like judging it, looking down on it, but or like pimp and that type of culture. But Hugh Hefner is a pimp. Playboy bunnies are like sex workers, whatever. You see like Playboy bunnies. There's these pure innocent types, even though they do a lot of the same things as us. Just because we're bold, it's bad type of thing. But that's how they see themselves. They see themselves as a pure innocent little bunnies having to deal with the uncouth, rambunctious, wild, bold types. Okay, but then look at how many fine types are mass shooters, right? They become bold when they have a gun. Okay, a lot of people with very bold features, like George Floyd, had very bold features. I don't see that's sort of vilified, but how many school shooters and mass shooters look like that? A lot of them have fine features. Okay, type of thing. And then they see, because they see us as more as they see themselves as these pure innocent rabbits, and us as these sort of the wolves, the bears, and the jaguars, right? Um, and this is becoming not about color. This has always been in the case, like where you see like the fine types are usually like on the coast, and you could see that when they were like sort of downgrading people who speak with a southern accent. Because yes, there's a lot of people with southern accents with fine types, but there's a higher concentration of them with like bold types, like a lot of some type of thing. It's just bold phobia. Fine types think they are better and more superior than us. Okay, because generally speaking, sometimes our bold nature and appearances does come with more like bold behavior. Okay, and they don't like that. And that fine types, it comes with more like fine behavior, right? They tend to be more cautious. We tend to be more bold, and that type of thing. But they see us as like the wolves, bears, and jaguars are trying to survive, but they're not even rabbits. Yes, when you guys are like anxious or regressed or something, you have those rabbit vibes, but you're actually like the weasels and the foxes. We're all carnivores here in that sort of metaphorical sense, where we all have those sort of wild vibes to us sometimes. Okay. Um, that's right. You guys tend to do things more orderly and organized, but like Hugh Hefner is still a pimp. Like you'll look down on like bold people, you'll call them pimps and hoes, but those were pimps and hoes. It was just in a more organized way. Like you guys will look down on the WAP video, but then take your young children to Hooters, which is based on a restaurant based on breast. You know what I'm saying? Or like, so they're scared of both types. They don't like us. They're depicting us in media, that type of thing. Uh, you can also see this in like, so basically, there's this. I mean, these fine types will, um, they play innocent. They play that sort of their cuteness up, right? You guys have more cute features. We have more. You guys have more cute, pretty features. We have more handsome, beautiful features, right? You guys will try to play that up, but like how in a sense like you see us, a lot of us, as like these dumb thugs, these dumb brutes, but there's an IQ limit to be a cop. So you literally hire these dumb thugs and brutes to do your dirty work. And yes, if you're having other people do your dirty work, you can play innocent and pure. But you turn a blind eye to police brutality and corruption. Like you hire bold types to do your dirty work, to do your heavy lifting type of thing, while you're doing like there's a different concentration of crime. Yes, both types are more prone to street crime, but you guys commit white collar crime, right? And this is not exclusive. Yes, there's fine types that commit street crime, and there's both types that commit white collar crime, but is this different concentrations. So you hate our sort of bold, that type of bold behavior, but you hire bold cops. So that's an extension of you, and you while you do white collar crime. You see what I'm saying? And that's the type of thing. It's like yes, more bold types do more bold types of crime, like um like there was a but you guys do crime too, but just more in this sort of cautious, you know, passive way, more weaselly vibes, right? You guys are the foxes and the weasels, and we are the wolves, the bears, and the jaguars. Like a lot of fine types, you guys wouldn't mug someone, right? You're just too cautious for that. But you will do money laundering or civic forfeiture or all these other things where it's stealing as well, but just because it's bold, it has a worse edit. It almost has that chart feeling of like lawful evil and chaotic evil. Lawful evil is not better than chaotic evil. It's just a different approach. You find types do everything that we do, it's just a different approach. Okay. But that's my point, that this sort of appearance based caste system is becoming less relevant, right? Like fine white identified people, a lot of them don't like bold white identified people. You're even getting these vibes from this Russia thing, right? Um, Russians inhabitants tend to be more bolder than say like people in like England or Ireland or something, or at least England, um, type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And or you're seeing this like in San Francisco, where um, a lot of like the Oriental cast of genetically yellow people, a lot of you are fine types, where like these fine types are sort of overrepresented in like these STEM and tech programming jobs in like Seattle and San Francisco. Like these heritage North American fine types would rather, you know, immigrants come from Asia just because they are also the weasels and the foxes. Like type of thing. Like, right? So so white white identified weasels and foxes are discriminating against, you know, bolder white identified people, uh for just because they're like the wolves and the bears and the jaguars, because like we can do programming too. Like that's the kind of thing, like we're being dictated based on our appearance. Just because like I've experienced being put in that sort of dumb thug box just based on my appearance, people assume I'm like the dumb thug. Okay. um yeah, I used to program video games and that type of thing. Okay, but I'm least likely to be hired in a lot of these sort of fine enclaves just based on my appearance. They prefer these white cast or white identified weasels and foxes prefer other weasels and foxes so much, they're pulling them from these different Asian countries. Okay, the Oriental caste weasels and foxes. Okay, which is like they're even discriminating against other these established weasels and foxes in like San Francisco, Seattle, are even discriminating against white identified North American sort of weasels and foxes just because it's more reliable, right? That they're going to be, because in a lot of these Asian countries, a lot of you guys have the highest concentration of like fine types, I guess you could say, at least like the academia types, right? Because there is like bold Chinese, Japanese, Korean, but they're more working in like the factories and these other types of jobs. Most of these like college graduate fine types are um, are fine types, weasels and foxes, and they're coming into these countries, into the U.S. Like that's how strong boldphobia is, right? And then maybe there could be fine phobia. I don't know, but there's at least fine philia, that which does cause its own issues, right? Fine, because there is this sort of, I don't know if it's a hierarchy, but let's just say influence, right? Because we just shouldn't reinforce these hierarchies. So like fine is over here, bold is over here. Fine, that's just influence, right? Everyone sort of tries to strive for these fine features. This is like why like people starve themselves. They want to make their hair straighter, right? I would still put even lighter skin in fine because brown skin is bold. It's more fine. It's more light, right? That's it's like they talk about like European beauty standards. No, 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 no. It's fine beauty standards. There's a fine standard, right? And but that has its own pitfalls and challenges because sometimes we will fetishize um, fine types, even though sometimes you guys self fetishize yourselves, or sometimes we will target fine types for crimes because we assume that you're less intimidating or threatening, right? Um, so this sort of bold phobia is not totally like um, it's not totally without reason, but it's beyond that where it is still just sort of bold phobia, especially because of the more hypocritical sort of aspects of that, right? Us bold types, a lot of us originate from more closer to our sort of hunter gatherer um, type of originators, right? And in these sort of pre modern, pre fine places and societies, the women were topless, okay? And if rape if rape and sexual assault was an issue, they wouldn't have done that, right? People were topless in like parts of Asia, Africa, Australia, Polynesia, the Americas. The women were topless, sweaty sometimes. If sexual assault was an issue, they wouldn't have done that. Like both types are associated with this sort of like aggression and hostility. But we were actually fine before these like fine types came into our worlds and like you know created these sort of overly stressful, overstimulating, overactive societies and that type of thing. Okay. Um, like you guys can be just as aggressive as us, but you just do it with a different approach. Okay. Or you just hire bold types to do your dirty work and heavy lifting. Right? It's kind of like that same vibe where like people identify as white witches, which is hella casteist. Like, I'm a white witch. Yes, it's easy to be a white witch when you let the cops and the military kill and blow people up. Like, other people are doing your hard labor. So yes, you can say you're a white witch. Like, why don't we say white military, white gun, like black magic? Like, we don't call it black warfare. There's nothing wrong with black magic. It's just defending yourself. But you can say like, I don't only use white magic if other people are doing the black forces for you. And it's the same type of thing. Like, you see this where it's like you find types are very immersed in like anime where the characters look like children or even sometimes babies sometimes. Because if you notice, like, these characters, a lot of fine types find bold features so friction, they cause so much friction, intimidation, and discomfort that you draw your characters, they don't even have noses. They look like babies, which is becoming a problem because you guys are becoming so immersed in this media where you're almost becoming disconnected from reality, where you're being surprised that there's people with bold features almost. Like, you're immersing yourself in this world where everyone has super fine features, where, you know, you're becoming more and more uncomfortable with this sort of bold reality, where this bold phobia is starting to increase, which I think is manifesting in media with these movies like The Troll, where the troll has, uh, bold features and that type of thing. Okay, because I've been called troll online after you fine types have looked at my picture. Then you more often use the term troll if you assume it's a black identified person or just a person with bold features, right? You'll call anyone troll if they have bold features or bold behavior, right? But you guys can be like, you act aggressive is just typically more passive aggressive, and you think that makes you better when it's the same thing. It's just a different approach. Okay, so I think that's going to be the new sort of dynamic where fine types of any appearance are gathering together. Then I guess there's like these medium types, and then there's like bold types. Because I don't even know if I quite fit in the bold because it's fairly relative, right? There's people with bolder physiques, bolder facial features, bolder behavior. Here, and this is not dictating personality, it's based on our appearance, right? There's like the gentle giant types who wouldn't dream of doing this stereotypical bold behavior. And then there's fire types who are like aggressive spitfires, 4'11, super cute features who will tear you apart. But there is this general base nature, right? Fine types are generally more cautious, while we're generally, more bold. But that doesn't mean we can't be shy or introverted, or, we will be the last person to express some of these bold behavior unless it's in these very specific conditions or circumstances. There's 7 billion individuals, 7 billion personalities, 7 billion characters. This is just me talking about things in a general sense and, touching on bold phobia. And to people with more bold features, I say, we're bold. Let's take up space. We're not going anywhere, and we can be loud. We can be bold, and that's just who and what we are. It's time to shift from this sort of fine centric reality. I don't want to swing to the other side where it's bold centric. I want us to honor. Let's Maybe we should honor our differences instead of vilifying and fetishizing each other.